Hello everyone, my name is Ibrahim, and in today's video, I'll be reflecting on my 4 elements framework. From the perspective of a future nurse, I believe it is highly important to apply these concepts into my practice, as they enable me to reflect on my identity not only as a future nurse, but as an advocate for Indigenous people. The first element is air, which signifies self in relation. This element of air resonates with me as a future nurse because I need to understand my identity in relation to the hierarchies of power and privilege in the healthcare system. In regards to nursing, I understand that coming from a immigrant background, live within societies that have historically suppressed indigenous peoples. There are power relations that exist, and I must practice nursing with that awareness. Throughout this class, I have come to appreciate that self in relation is also the reflection of what cultural legacy I hold and how this shapes my actions towards others, including patients. Understanding my cultural and social privilege enables me to practice respect and cultural safety in healthcare. To provide the best care possible, I acknowledge that I also need to confront my preconceived notions and biases, both at the personal and professional levels. The second element is fire, symbolizing service and reciprocity. In the nursing profession, my service goes far beyond the medical model of care. It includes providing compassionate, culturally appropriate, and reciprocal care. Service involves earning trust and relationships with my patients, especially Indigenous peoples who have been historically marginalized and traumatized by the healthcare system. This course has taught me that service embraces reciprocity. It's not about doing for, but rather a relationship where both parties engage for mutual benefit. In nursing, this means a holistic approach that embraces Indigenous knowledge and practices through respect for lived experiences from Indigenous patients. In practicing reciprocity, I can provide care that is holistic, healing, and respectful of Indigenous ways of knowing and being. Earth is the third element representing our relationships to land. As a nurse in training, I have come to realize that land goes beyond a mere location. It involves the deep connection Indigenous peoples have towards it. Colonialism has fundamentally disrupted these relationships, and as a nurse, I think I have to consider how this disruption affects the health and well being of Indigenous peoples. In my practice, I seek to address the unlearning of colonial frameworks and the rebuilding of relationships to land for myself and my patients. I have come to understand that healthcare has to incorporate the land, the environment, and cultural activities as multifaceted determinants of health. I will also pay attention to the ways that historical and ongoing colonialism intersects with care for Indigenous peoples and try to ensure that my nursing interventions, have a feel of connection, not only physically but also holistically. The last of these is water, representing anti-Indigenous racism. Anti-Indigenous racism, particularly in healthcare, is a significant issue and itself negates the kind of care that Indigenous peoples are able to get. Through all course materials, I can recognize that anti-Indigenous racism in healthcare settings is another professional but also a moral responsibility for me. This is particularly applicable to nursing, where trust and cultural safety are needed for effective care. I realized that anti Indigenous racism can go from one extreme to the other. For example, from assuming a specific lifestyle choice to a complete dismissal of any Indigenous health practice. To break this down, I need to work actively at creating a safe, a place where Indigenous people feel that they're heard and a respected space for Indigenous patients. As a nurse of the future, I will take charge in breaking down hurtful practices or biased practices by focusing on cultural humility and getting more informed on the unique health needs and challenges that Indigenous communities face. In conclusion, I have learned that being an effective healthcare provider requires an understanding of my own position, the reciprocal nature of service, and the repair of relationship to the land, and the active addressing of racism within the healthcare system.